morning children. So welcome back to the online session of a mathematics class. So we are discussing about the new lesson which is coordinate geometry. So in the last video, which is part 1, I have given a introduction to the coordinate geometry as well as some of the terms which are related with the coordinate geometry, right? So let us overview what we have studied in the last video, then we will go for the further concept of the coordinate geometry. So in the last class we have studied about the coordinate geometry. So in that we will be having a system when we are having a point on the plane. So we need to describe that point. If you want to describe that point, we need the coordinates axis. We need the coordinate axis. So suppose if I take this board as a plane, so I should describe this point in the sense I need two axes. So this is called as the axis. So one will be the horizontal line and another one will be the vertical line. The horizontal line will be called as an x-axis. The vertical line will be called as a y-axis. The concept of x and y-axis, the coordinate plane, how it has existed. So the person Rene Descartes, he was introduced the Cartesian plane. So on remembrance of his name, the plane itself is called as the Cartesian plane. In fact, it is inside plane also. Okay, so he was introduced in the 17th century on remembrances of his name. We will call it as this plane as a Cartesian plane. So if I want to describe that point, we need the vertical line and as well as the horizontal line. Both will be intersect at some point, right? So the intersecting point will be called as the origin. Okay, so this is x-axis and this is y-axis. So these are all the things we have learned in the last class. As well as the it is divided like this, then it will get divided into 4 parts. Okay, before that we have learned about x dash. This is y dash. This is negative y direction and this is negative x direction. So you need to divide by equal intervals in all the directions, right? So this is positive x direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is negative x direction, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5. This is positive y direction, the value will be positive. So this is negative y direction. Okay. So now this coordinate system will be divided into 4 parts. So therefore this is first part, first quadrant. This is second quadrant, anti-clockwise. This is third quadrant, and this is fourth quadrant. Okay. So the point, whatever the point we will be obtaining, whatever the point we will be describing on the coordinate plane. So that will be having in terms of what is that? Ordered pace. It will be having in terms of ordered pace. So if I am having a point on the number line, that is only one number. If I am having a plane, so that will be having ordered pair. There will be 2 pairs. One pair of 2 numbers. One pair of 2 numbers. It is ordered pair. So I need to represent a point in the plane in this format only. In this format only. Suppose if I am having a point on this plane, so I can't say that the point is 5. I should say that in terms of 3, 4 or 4, 5 in terms of ordered pace. In terms of ordered pace. In fact, here we are not giving both are positive. So in fact, we are getting both are positive in this plane. Okay, it has to be there in some x and y. So you know that what is x? X is a perpendicular distance of a point from the y-axis. From the y-axis. So the perpendicular distance of point. What is where is y-axis? This is the y-axis. Perpendicular distance. So this is perpendicular. This is the parallel. This is perpendicular. So what is the distance of this point? How to measure that? You can measure in x-axis. That is 2. This is 2. What is y? Y is nothing but perpendicular distance from the x-axis. So from the x-axis, so this is the x-axis to the point. So this is perpendicular, right? So how to measure this? How to measure this? We can measure the same distance in the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4. So point is 2, 4. The point is 2, 4. What it means? The point will be 2 meters. Okay, 2 units. Whether it may be meters or centimeters, whatever it may be. Units. I will take it as units. So the point will be 2 units distance from the y-axis, and it will be a 4 units distance from the x-axis. So it is the meaning of the point. So like that we need to locate the point in the plane. Okay. So that first point x coordinate is called as a abscissa, and the second point y coordinate is called as a ordinate. Okay. So we have learned about these things in the last class. The question is very simple. They will give the point. And they will say that write the x coordinate or write the abscissa of the point P. So you can easily write that. Write the ordinate of point P. So you can easily write that 4. If they are given some other point, write the coordinate. Write the ordinate of the point Q. Write the ordinate of point S. So they will give that the question. You should look at the point and you should look at the x coordinate or abscissa, or look at the y coordinate or ordinate, write the value. So it's very easy. So you should understand that what is abscissa and what is ordinate. Abscissa is the x coordinate, ordinate is a y coordinate. What do you mean by x coordinate abscissa? It is a perpendicular distance from the y axis. What is ordinate? It is a perpendicular distance from the x axis. How to measure that? So abscissa will be measured along the x axis, and the ordinate will be measured along the y axis. Right? So this is a very simple concept, and it's a very basic concept in the coordinate geometry. So sometimes they will give the point and they will ask the question. So what is the ordinate of this point? What is the abscissa of this point? Okay. So if the point will be there at some other first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, you can write the ordinate abscissa very easily. Okay. Now assume that point will be there on the x-axis only. Suppose assume that this is the point. Let me denote by Q. So what is the abscissa and ordinate of this point? What is the abscissa and ordinate of point Q? So it's very easy. What is abscissa? Abscissa is nothing but a perpendicular distance from the x-axis or from the y-axis. Correct? What is? It should have some x, y, right? It should have in terms of x, y, ordered pairs. So what is x? X is a perpendicular distance from the y-axis. We'll write it. What is the perpendicular distance of this point from the y-axis? This is the y-axis. What is the perpendicular distance? 1, 2, 3, 4. So x is 4. Correct? Okay. What is y? Y is nothing but ordinate. Ordinate is a perpendicular distance from the x-axis. Correct? So the point, it is not there somewhere here, it is on the y-axis only. So there is no perpendicular distance. You can observe that it is on y-axis only. So there is no distance here. Distance is 0 from the x-axis. From the x-axis for this point, there is no distance. It is on the x-axis only. So therefore it is 0. Right? So what is the point? 4, 0. 4, 0. Say suppose if the point will be there on the y-axis, assume that this is R. So what is the coordinates of R? What is the ordinate abscissa of R? So we know that it is nothing but R versus R of x, y. Correct? So x. What is x? X is a perpendicular distance of point from the y-axis. So the point will be there. This is the y-axis. So the point is on the y-axis only. So there is no distance. There is no perpendicular distance from the y-axis. Therefore it is 0. Okay. Now, so this is the point. So what is y? Y is ordinate. It is nothing but a perpendicular distance from the x-axis. So this is the x-axis. x-axis. So what is the perpendicular distance from the x-axis? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, 6. 0, 6 will be the representation of this point. If the point will be on the y-axis. So what is understood from these 2 points? You can observe that if the point lies on the y-axis, on the x-axis, if the point lies on the x-axis, the y coordinate will be 0. The y coordinate will be 0 or coordinate will be 0. Coordinate will be 0. If the point lies on the x-axis, coordinate will be 0. If the point lies on the y-axis, abscissa will be 0. Right? So that is the point. You should understand that if the point will be on the x-axis, coordinate will be 0. On the y-axis, abscissa will be 0. Why? There is no perpendicular distance from the x-axis and y-axis respectively. Right? So therefore it is 0. Okay. Now let me take the coordinates of the origin. Coordinates of the origin. In the origin, what is the perpendicular distance from the x-axis? What is the perpendicular distance from the y-axis? Okay. So this is origin, right? So for this, let me take again x comma y. So it has to be in terms of ordered place, right? So okay. Let me take for this point. What is the perpendicular? X in the sense it is abscissa. Abscissa in the sense it is the perpendicular distance from the y-axis. So you can observe that it is on the y-axis only. So that means 0. Right? That means 0. There is no perpendicular distance from the y-axis for this point. Okay. Y in the sense it is y in the sense ordinate. Ordinate means perpendicular distance from the x-axis. So you can observe that the point is also on the x-axis also. So there is no perpendicular distance from the x-axis also. Therefore it is also 0. So what is the coordinates of origin? 0, 0. What is the coordinates of origin? 0, 0. Very important. The intersecting point is nothing but a origin. Coordinates of origin will be 0, 0. Coordinates of point which lies on the y-axis 0, 6. Coordinates of the point which lies on the x-axis 4, 0. It may be lies here also. It may be point. What is the coordinates of this? It is 2, 0. Why 0? Because it lies on the x-axis. Ordinate value will be 0. If the point here is the point lies, then this is 0, 3. Why? Because it is lies on the y-axis. Abscissa will be 0. Abscissa will be 0. So the conclusion is, if the point lies on the x-axis, ordinate value will be 0. If the point lies on the y-axis, then abscissa value will be 0. So that is the conclusion. And then coordinates of origin, right? Okay. So this much we have learned. Writing the ordinate and abscissa from a particular point we have learned. Okay. Now the next concept will be, what is the sign of first coordinate, second coordinate, third coordinate, and fourth coordinate. Right? Okay, so now this is first quadrant. This is the first quadrant. First quadrant. Now you have observed that the point will be like what is that? We have taken that P of 4, 2, right? 4, 2. I'm sorry, 2, 4. 2, 4. Abscissa is 2 and ordinate is 4. Okay. Now we will talk about the sign. You can observe that this is plus 2. This is plus 4. Right? Okay. Let me put the point here. Okay. We'll try to find out the coordinates for this point. Let me take this point as a q. Q of x, y. I'll write in terms of x, y. Then I'll find out the x and y. I'll write there. I'll fill that place. Okay. Now what is x? X is a abscissa. Abscissa is nothing but perpendicular distance from the y-axis. What is the perpendicular distance of point from the y-axis? We will join that and we will find out that. So from here to here, we should come to x-axis. 1, 2, 3. So this is how much? 3. 1, 2, 3. So how much? 3. In fact, it's on the negative direction. It has to be minus 3. Correct? Or otherwise, if you want to find out from distance here to here, what is that? Minus 3, minus 0. So it is minus 3, right? The distance is minus 3, right? Okay. Y is nothing but perpendicular distance from the x-axis. So what is the distance of this? We go for y-axis. 1, 2, 3. So it is minus 3, 3. You can observe that you are getting minus. Okay. Oh. Let me look at the point here also. Let me look at that point here also. We will try to find out the sign. Okay. So I will be taking a point here. Okay. So I will be taking R. I will be taking as R. So what is that? First, that is abscissa is nothing but perpendicular distance from the y-axis. So same distance we can go for that. Minus 1, minus 2, minus 2. Correct? Similarly, so y is nothing but ordinate perpendicular distance from the y-axis. So you can find out this distance. So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So minus 3. Correct? Correct? You can observe the sign. Both are negative. We will look at the point here. Okay? We will look at something else here. Okay? You see yes. So S of x comma y. X in the sense abscissa. Abscissa in the sense perpendicular distance from the y-axis. Okay? From the y-axis, how much it is distance of the point? You can observe the x-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, it is positive. So it is 5. Okay. So next, y ordinate perpendicular distance from the x-axis. We will join from the x-axis and we will find out the length. So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So minus 3. So 5, minus 1. Now, all the 4 quadrants I have located 4 points. Okay. We will observe the sign of that. We can observe the sign of both the x and y coordinates, that is abscissa and coordinate ordinate, both are positive. Here you can observe that x is negative, y is positive. You can observe that both are negative. You can observe that x is positive, y is negative. Why it is like this? You can observe that whatever the points you can take on this quadrant, it will be enclosed between positive x direction with positive y direction. It will be enclosed with positive x direction then positive y direction, positive y axis. It is on the positive y axis, enclosed between positive x axis, positive y axis. So whatever the point you can take here, both the point will be in positive sign. Both the point will be with positive sign because it is enclosed between positive x axis, positive y axis. Right? Okay. In the second quadrant, it will be enclosed between positive x axis, then negative x axis, then positive y axis. So the second plane, the second quadrant, which will be enclosed between positive negative x axis and then positive y axis. Therefore, the x value will be negative, then y value will be positive. Similarly, we can go for the third quadrant. In the third quadrant, you can observe that third quadrant will be enclosed between the negative x axis then the negative y axis. It is enclosed between negative x axis, negative y axis. Therefore, both will be negative. Both will be negative. You can take that. Here it is. Fourth quadrant will be enclosed between positive x axis then negative y axis. Positive x axis then negative y axis. So x is positive, y is negative. So positive, negative. So this is standard. This is standard. Whatever the point you can take on this axis, both the point will be in positive side only. Whatever the point you can take on this axis, the x coordinate will be negative side, y coordinate will be So whatever the point, where you can take the point, wherever you want, you can take the point in this quadrant, both will be in negative sign only. So similarly in this quadrant, x value will be positive, y value will be negative. The reason is it will be enclosed between both positive x axis and positive y axis. This is negative x axis and positive y axis. Both will be enclosed between negative axis. Here it is positive x axis and negative y axis. Right? So that is the reason sign of the values in this coordinate system is going to change according to the quadrant. First quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, anti-clockwise. Both are plus plus, both are positive, both are negative, negative positive, positive negative. Right? By looking the axis itself, you can observe that whether the value will be positive or negative. If you see the point, say suppose they will be giving the point, locate the point 5, 3. You can observe the sign, both will be positive. So you can easily say that this point will be there in first quadrant. So you only need to go for these 3 quadrants. You can clearly go for the first quadrant and you can search for the point. If the point will be like minus 5, minus 4, you can see that both will be negative. So you can directly go for the third quadrant. You can try to locate that point. You don't want to go for second quadrant, the first quadrant, fourth quadrant. You can easily understand because both are negative. It has to be there in third quadrant only because both the value will be negative. So if first will be r comma minus 3 comma 4. You can observe that x value will be negative. This point should be there in the second quadrant. So you can go for second quadrant. You can try to locate the point. So if the point will be like minus 5 comma minus 3, I'm sorry, not minus 5, 5 comma minus 3, then you can go for fourth quadrant. You can locate that point. Okay. So this is by observing the quadrant itself, by observing the sign of the point itself, we can able to understand where is that point actually lies. So if you see that a, 0, 3, where this point lies, you can observe that the x coordinate will be 0. This point has to be lie on the y axis. This point has to be lie on the y axis because the abscissa will be 0. Then if you are having point like 5, 0, you can say that this point has to be lies on the x axis because the ordinate value will be 0. So by observing the point itself, you can say that where is the point lies actually, right? So on the x axis, y value will be 0. On the x axis, y value will be 0 or ordinate value will be 0. On the y x axis, y coordinate. So when we are writing x comma y, this is called as the x coordinate. This is x coordinate or abscissa. That is called as abscissa. Okay. So this is y coordinate. I will send the notes for this. Okay. Or ordinate. Y coordinate and ordinate both are same. That is called as the ordinate. X coordinate and abscissa both are same. X coordinate is called as the abscissa. Okay. Don't confuse with that. Okay. So if I given the point, this is x coordinate, this is y coordinate. If y coordinate is 0, then that point has to be lies on the x axis. If x coordinate is 0, then that point has to be lies on the y axis. Okay, which is very, very important for your throughout your mathematics, up to whatever you are going to study in the mathematics, up to then after 10th standard, 11th standard, 12th standard, degree, then master degree, PhD, wherever you can go, that will be very, very important in the coordinate geometry. On the x axis, y value will be 0. On the y axis, x value will be 0, which is very, very important point you should remember in the coordinate geometry, right? Okay. So we are learned about these things. So we learn about locating the point now. Locate the point. Whenever they are given the, so when they are given the point, we can able to get what is abscissa and what is ordinate in that particular point, right? So if they are given the point, to locate the point on the plane, so how to locate that point? How to locate locate that point. So we'll see that. Okay. So locating the point I'll explain in the next video because it's time up now. So I'll take one more class of the coordinate geometry and I'll be explaining how to locate the point. Okay, so that's it for coordinate geometry. It's a small chapter. Then I'll be sending a video to watch out about this coordinate geometry. So that will take one more class. So within 2 or 3 video sessions, then we'll to complete this lesson. Then we will conduct a test on this. So be prepared for this. These are the basic things for the coordinate geometry. So this coordinate geometry not only for this lesson, it will be useful for your next lesson also. That is linear equation in 2 variables. It will be useful for your next lesson also. Not only for the next lesson, it will be useful for your next 10th standard class also. Right? So these are the basic concepts. Any doubts on this? You can call me or you can message me. Right? So thank you. We will meet in the next video.